Alright, let's dive into something that's been buzzing in the entertainment world lately, the live-action remake of Moana. Now, before we even get into the nitty-gritty, I've got to ask, why? Seriously, why does this exist? And I'm not just being snarky here. Personally, I think this is a question that's been looming over Disney's live-action remakes for years. What's the point of recreating something frame by frame, when the original is still fresh in our minds? I mean, Moana came out in 2016. That's barely a decade ago. It's not like we're revisiting a classic from the 1950s. So, what's the appeal? Is it nostalgia? Or is it just a cash grab? Let's break it down. First off, let's talk about the concept of remakes versus adaptations. Adaptations, in my opinion, have a unique challenge. They're taking something from one medium, like a book or a real-life event, and translating it into film. That's a creative process with room for interpretation and innovation. But remakes, especially Disney's remakes, they feel like a copy-paste job. And Moana is no exception. The live-action version is so faithful to the original that it begs the question, why bother? What's the value in seeing the exact same story beats, the same songs, the same character arcs, but with real actors? It's like watching a high-budget cosplay, and I'm not sure that's enough to justify its existence. Now, let's talk about the casting. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is back as Maui, and while he's undeniably charismatic, there's something off about his performance here. In the animated version, Maui's energy is larger than life, almost cartoonish. But in live action, The Rock feels restrained. It's like he's playing a statue instead of a demigod. And don't even get me started on the stiffness of the character. It's not a bad performance, per se, but it lacks the spark that made the animated Maui so memorable. What many people don't realize is that animation allows for a level of exaggeration and expression that live action can't always replicate. And when you try to force that into a real-world setting, it just feels flat. Then there's Moana herself, played by Catherine Lagoea. Look, I don't want to be too harsh, but she's just not as compelling as her animated counterpart. Olai Cravalho brought this unstoppable energy to the role, and it's hard to shake that comparison. Lagoea's performance feels more subdued, and while that might be a directorial choice, it doesn't do the character any favors. Moana is supposed to be this fearless, determined hero, but in the live-action version, she feels more like a bystander in her own story. And that's a shame, because Moana's journey is what makes the original so powerful. Speaking of the story, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Moana's quest to restore Te Whaiti's heart and end her people's fear of the ocean is a noble one, but it's not new. We've seen it before. And while the themes of courage, identity, and connection to nature are timeless, they don't feel fresh in this context. What this really suggests is that Disney is relying on the familiarity of the story to carry the film, rather than bringing something new to the table. And that's where the problem lies. If you take a step back and think about it, this remake doesn't add anything meaningful to the narrative. It's just a rehash, and that's not enough to make it stand out. Now, let's talk about the direction. Thomas Kail, known for his work on Hamilton, is at the helm here, and while his stage experience is impressive, it doesn't translate well to this film. The direction feels static, like a series of staged scenes rather than a fluid, cinematic experience. It's almost as if someone took the animated version, paused it every few minutes, and said, "Okay, now do that in real life." And that lack of dynamism is a missed opportunity. Live action should bring a new dimension to the story, but here, it feels like a step backward. So, what's the takeaway? Personally, I think this live-action Moana is a missed opportunity. It doesn't justify its existence beyond being a visual retread of the original. And while it's not a bad film, it's not a necessary one either. What makes this really interesting is how it highlights a broader trend in Hollywood, the reliance on remakes and reboots instead of original storytelling. If you ask me, that's the bigger issue here. We're in an era where creativity seems to be taking a backseat to nostalgia, and that's something we should all be concerned about. So, here's my question to you. Do we really need these remakes? Or should we be demanding more original stories? Let me know what you think in the comments below.